Love Island UK is finished, which is a relief because that's a 6-time-a-week commitment, but lockdown helps. Yeah, I think otherwise okay.
Nice. That's a good place to be. Yeah, I've been catching up. I watched The Boys, just rewatching things that I've seen 1,000 times before, and I just binged it all over again. So it's funny how we get into our TV shows. I hope everybody is going well out there. Can see Festus is in the house. What's up, Steve? Got Johanna here looking after us. Thanks for joining us, Johanna. Rakesh, nice to have you here as well. So if you're watching this over on YouTube or anywhere else, jump on over to behance.net/live if you want to say hello. We'd love to hear from you. Maybe where you're tuning in from as well. That's always lots of fun. And if you have any questions as we're going along. So this is part 2 of a 2-part series. And so we had some fun on Tuesday setting up Photoshop files. So if you kind of get in here and you're thinking, wait, how do I get here in the first place? We've done a whole stream on that, so you can check it out over on YouTube or here on Behance. But yeah, Greta, should we kind of jump in? We've got everything set up to go. You're like super prepared. This is amazing. We've got like a before and after today.
I had a bit of a crisis of self after Tuesday where I was like, was that too boring?
No, not at all.
Then I was like, let's make this a bit more fun. So what I'm going to do is show you what I've created here, and then we're going to go into it. We're going to recreate some components that you can already see, but not everything, just little moments of it we'll touch on. And then time permitting, we're going to add more to this. So basically what we have here is a composition, and I just right-clicked that to get into the composition settings. I've given it this name. I like using underscores. It makes me feel like an astronaut or something.
Oh, I'm a hyphen person.
You're a hyphen person?
Yeah.
Sure. Whatever it takes. The width is 1080 pixels. The height is 1920. So for those of you who have made assets like this before, this is going to work really well as an Instagram story.
Cool.
From memory, this is the same image sizes you'd use for those cool Spotify videos that pop up. If you click into a song on your phone, a little video pops up. You can also use this for Snapchat. So it's it's now a common format. It's basically 16:9 flipped. So when you're holding your phone vertically, and something fills the screen, this is it. And I have set it to 14 seconds. Sorry, that wouldn't be good for audio, me moving around, which is, I think the length of an Instagram story is 15 seconds before it cuts to the next part. I always make it a little bit less.
Why is that?
Sometimes these apps don't measure time in the same way that these programs do. So for example, I think the minimum Instagram video is 3 seconds. I've made 3-second ones before that have been rejected. So I usually work towards 4 seconds. So in this instance, I make it a second less than 15 seconds so that it doesn't weirdly chop and add a bit of your video just for a little bloop.
Yeah.
So I know that it's going to sit in that designated time.
Cool.
And then 25 frames per second. So that's what we're seeing here. So if I hit play on this, which is spacebar, there's no audio.
Wow.
And that's that. So it's just the start of a sort of cute animation. It's not perfect because we're going to jump into it and sort of work on it. But I'll quickly show you what I've done. Our original image, jump into Photoshop. There was a label on the orange juice that was annoying me. It felt too busy for the purpose of today. Now, if this image were provided by clients, you just have to deal with it, but we don't have to deal with it. We can sort of make it a bit more fun. So I added on a label of my own design.
Cool.
So if we go into that label, it's pretty simple. It's a shape. If I go into the shape, you can see that I've added a bit of roundness to it. Let's zoom in on that so you can see what that looks like if you've never used this before. Oh, I love it so much. It makes me feel like I'm so talented. Okay, I had that set to 41. And then have I used masks? I've used masks. So I wrote the word orange, and then I just masked off each letter. A mask, the way you do this is you can do it with a shape or with the pen tool. They're essentially the same thing. It's vector lines. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. So just go like that.
Oh, cool.
And then within the mask options, there's add, subtract, none. In this instance, we're adding the O, and it subtracts the rest of the word, and then I have a whole lot of options there.
So it adds the O and just subtracts anything outside of what you selected.
Yeah. And the reason why I do it like this, I've actually used, and I never used this tool, and I got so excited to use it again. I actually used the vertical type.
Yeah, that is rare, right? Like to use the vertical type, but it makes sense in packaging and also in the vertical video. That's cool.
And the reason why I wanted to type it out as opposed to create each letter individually is I wanted to know it was even. So when you type, it auto sets, what do they call this? The leading. So I knew that the spaces between the letters were exact, basically. Yeah, just my own preference. You could type an O, type an R, type an A, type an N, type a G, put them where you want them. But for the purpose of this, it felt right. And then within this, I animated. I'm selecting everything, and then I'm pressing U to reveal all of the keyframes. I gave everything position, scale, and rotation. So let's watch the letter G, because my name starts with a G and I'm self-involved. I have the anchor point right here in this little triangle central part of the G. And let me make this fuchsia because A, it's a pretty color, and B, it's a bit easier to see. And it starts at a scale of 0, a rotation of -217. I just chose this at random. You could really sort of massage this and get into it and work out what you like best. And the position, I'll just pull this out, is just a little bit, is it lower? Yeah, it's lower.
Right.
So it just starts a little bit low, and it comes up and it spins around, and the last thing it does is rotates into place.
Cool.
Now, for those of you who are observant, you'll notice that I don't show the start of the scale. There's nothing there, and then it cuts into the G. That's deliberate. The reason why I've done that is sometimes I find the start of a scale to just be, let's set this to full. Half means we're seeing like, not half resolution, maybe it is half resolution. Full means we'll see it nice and sharp. This little bit of the G at the start, sometimes it can feel, for me, it can feel busy. You don't need to see every scale go from 0 to your end point.
Right.
So I cut into it. Now let's work out how many pixels I cut into it so it's consistent with the other ones. I'm just counting for E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Classic. So I always do 10. So shift page down gets me to 10. And then if I hold Alt, bear with me, and the square bracket, it's going to cut into this letter at that point. So that was shift page down to jump forward 10 keyframes, and then Alt, square bracket, open. This feels like school. Square bracket open to cut into the position. And so all of them, they all scale from 0, but you don't see it. Pardon me. See how they just jump in a little bit bigger?
Yeah.
I personally think that looks a bit nicer.
Yeah, that's cool.
They've all got different anchor points, different rotations, slightly different positions. And if we look at the bigger picture by hitting the tilde key, which is the wavy one of my favorites, no one knows what it does, but it does something in here. You can see how everything starts at the same point, but they all end slightly differently. And the G, even though the G comes up second last, it's the penultimate letter, big word, sorry, I'm embarrassed for myself. It actually finishes moving last. Because sometimes there's little, those little things where it's like you think it's going to go OAORANGE. It does, but then the G's like, I'm going to finish last. Things like that make it feel a little bit special. And then this one, if you slide it like so, you can actually have keyframe information starting before 0, if you will.
Right. That's interesting. I always assumed that everything would start right on the timeline, but you can actually have things happening like off stage almost.
Off stage, love it, exactly. And then it means the magic, but it means the sort of illusion, the movement is, if it's not an illusion, it's happening, is starting before so it's like you're jumping straight into it. So that's a trick. A lot of my inspiration, if I'm a bit stuck, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's true because there's really good work. It comes from TV ads. And so if you're animating a logo, you might start off with a 6-second long animation. And then the client's like, Greta, we don't have 6 seconds at the end of this 15-second TVC for you to do your logo animation. So sometimes I'll animate something. Here, I can show you with this. Pull it all in. And then on the ad, when it gets to the end frame lockup, all you see is this. It's just the last bit of the animation.
Right.
It's just about time. So it's sort of the same school of thought. So we'll jump out of the bottle sticker. The other thing I've added to the start is a little bit of, and I always forget what it's called, page turn. Page turn is this really cute effect. What I would say is don't get too heavy-handed with it. It's so fun to use that you will want to page turn every moment of your video. And I think it works best when it could happen in real life. So in this instance, the sticker could peel on.
Yeah.
So therefore, the page turn looks nice.
Right. So it's a bit like Star Wipe or something in Keynote or PowerPoint presentation.
So honestly, I love PowerPoint aesthetic. Like I need to get more into rainbow fonts and like fake 3D fonts because that stuff is so fun. But anyway, don't get me started. You just did get me started, didn't you? That's my fault for talking about it for too long. Stop it, Greta. Okay, page turn. So basically all we're playing with here is the fold position, which is this little person right here.
Oh, okay.
And what we're revealing is the original sticker and my retouching.
Nice.
So let's get rid of that point. The other thing we're looking at is we're animating the top right corner and we are the back page, which is the other side of the sticker. You can set it to the sticker itself. I've set it to none, and then I've picked this color by going into our blue and making it a bit darker. So it feels like it's part of the image. And then last but not least, what we were discussing before, the fold animation starts off stage.
Right.
It starts there. So we're coming in towards the end of it. And then on the fold position, I have got a ease and whiz.
Here's our ease and whiz coming back.
And
Love
it's
it.
set to, you can kind of click into it. Look at me go. I feel like I'm almost did some coding there. Sign. So you can, if you've forgotten what you've done, you can click in. You can also remove, if you get too carried away with expressions, if you hit this equal sign, it's gone.
Oh, interesting. So that just turns the expression on or off that you've added in there. That's cool.
It's really handy because if you get carried away, or you just do something you think, oh my gosh, that's not it at all, but you don't realize until, an hour down the track when you just can't undo it. Just drop in and it's gone. So when it's red, it's saying to you, hey, you've got an expression on this, which we want. And we were talking about, that is not going to work. We were talking about ease and whiz the other day. It's over on AE scripts.
There it is. Very cool. Yeah. And it's great. Like scripts are really great. Like especially like over time, like working with scripts has become easier and easier because I look at the coding of it, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't understand that because I don't understand coding beyond like HTML and CSS, but expression coding, like different sort of beast and how it works. That's okay. Like downloading something like Ease and Whiz and using the plugin, like it does that for you. It's so great, and really all you need to do is learn how to use the plugin, and then you're all set.
And sometimes I will do my own expressions, but I am following YouTube tutorials. I don't retain that information, and I don't practice them enough to have an instinct for how to do them myself, basically. I do get what's going on, but I don't have like a naturally coding style brain.
Right.
So I figure if someone else is doing the hard work for me, I'll pay them.
Yeah.
And take their hard work.
Yes.
It's just sort of easier. So that's our page turn. I always want to call it fold. That's our page turn, and it just and the O sort of appears.
I like how the O kind of peaks in. It's like peeking.
Yeah, and I just did that by fiddling the keyframe amounts, and that's what a lot of After Effects is. It's going, oh, how does this work? Too fast. What about this? Too slow. And with time, you get an instinct for how it's going to look. And
like the relationships between the animations, right? So like you may have done the orange first, and then okay, I'm going to add the page turn, and you think, oh, actually they could interact in a certain way, like you might pick out. Yeah,
exactly. And the nice thing about the page turn for a person looking at this video for the first time, which I think you should always try to keep in mind, because when you've looked at something 100 times, you're underestimating that most people will watch it once or twice, and so it needs to make sense. So starting with the page turn straight away moving says to the brain and the eye, hey, movement's about to happen. And it kind of gears you up for the rest of it. So I'm going to show you what I've done with the background here. In case you're wondering what these are guide layers. I'm obsessed with guide layers. You right-click something to make it a guide layer, and then it gets this cool little vibrant neon hash symbol, which tells you, hey, Greta, you've made this a guide layer, so you don't forget. And what it means is if I were to have these on and export this file, they wouldn't be on the export.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're just for me to know that they're there. And these guide layers are telling me to not put text in the top 250 pixels or the bottom 250 pixels, which I'm pretty sure is recommended for Instagram. So you don't want to write, for sale here at the top, buy today at the bottom, because it will get a little bit blocked by the built-in app.
Yeah, like the overlay and the navigation or whatever pops up. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a clear space, which is pretty common if you're, again, doing stuff for TV. They don't want you to put super crucial text in the bottom, row.
Yeah.
It's not a safe area.
Right.
So that's my own safe area. To create something that's 250 pixels involves a bit of maths, but not really. Said that because I wanted to sound like I'm a mathematician. So let's just create a contrast color. If you double click a shape, so I've gone right click, new shape layer. If you double click in the actual shape, this is set to square or rectangle. If you double click this, just puts a shape that's the exact size.
Oh, really? Regardless, so whatever your canvas size is, or that's the wrong terminology for After Effects, but you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Composition, right. And you double click that, it'll just fill it with a shape layer with a color. Cool.
Yeah, and It's slightly different. You can also go Command Y, which will give you a solid. And a solid's pretty much the same. You can still manipulate it, but sometimes I just like to do a shape. And now we're going to jump into the shape. So we're doing all these little drop downs, and we're going into rectangle path. And I'm going to make that, so the width is 1080 pixels, the height is 1920. The client has said to me, this isn't maths actually, I completely lied. The client has said to me, Greta, you've got to keep 250 pixels free at the top, please.
Right.
I go, okay. In the 1920, so in the vertical corresponding numbers, I'm typing in 250 pixels, enter. Wow. I'm going to unlink them. I'm typing in 250 pixels, and we have it.
Cool.
And then with my align tool, I just snap that to the top.
Oh, cool.
And
So
then
that has align layers to, I see composition is selected there, so it will align it to the very top of the page. Very nice.
Exactly. And then I've given it an opacity of like 30 or something like that, so it doesn't overwhelm the image when I put them on. So that's what those are. Nice. So we're going to use a similar technique. I'm actually going to get rid of everything. So that's our background, which is a shape layer, and it's actually, well, I think I stole it from the Photoshop, so it's this unnecessarily large layer, but that's okay.
Before we move on to the next bit, I just wanted to answer a question, which was a carry-on question from last time we promised we would chat about, which was Johanna's, thankfully, thank you, Johanna, for reminding me of it. Do you have any more advice for other creatives to get their work out there? We chatted a little bit about it on Tuesday.
I know, and then during my post-crisis of self, I was like, I have a better answer than the one I gave. So I originally said, put your work on Instagram, which is I think that's too obvious. So to elaborate on that, what I would say to people is, say you have like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Instagram followers. Find similar brands with similar followers to you who have a similar aesthetic to whatever it is that you do, whether it be illustration, really amazing animated text, really beautiful video editing, music, whatever it is that you do. Find someone who kind of seems to be in the same world as you, the same zone. Make something, put it on your own page, mention them, and there's a really good chance they'll say, oh my gosh, we love this. Can we put it on our account? That's cool. Now, they don't have to, and they might not like what you did, but if you're sort of dealing with similar follower numbers and similar aesthetics, there's a good chance they'll see it.
Right.
And I think it's a really good way to build up relationships and collaborate. You probably aren't going to make immediate money off it, because if someone's a small business as well, you know, they don't have this huge budget for you to make them 50 videos, but it's a really good way to start to sort of work with other people and collaborate and, you know, build up your skill set. And you can get lucky. Like I animated a Marc Jacobs image, and then the Marc Jacobs brand posted about it. So you can have your pieces go to a bigger, on a bigger scale. But I think working with, you know, similar-minded, similar aesthetic, whatever it is that you work with, and again, it might not get reposted, and you don't message them and be like, please repost this, because you can sort of do. I'm not confident like that, but if they see it and they love it, you know, share the link to it, give them the original files so they don't have to film their screen or anything. Or I think that's a nice way to, and only do it when it feels right and when it's a brand that you really love and love what they do. And then you don't want to inauthentically be trying to get posted by other people, but it's actually a really nice way to build relationships.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah.
More eyes on your work, basically.
Yeah, that's cool. I really like the idea of like, because like Marc Jacobs, like, you know, I'm sure they have like a big following and everything. It's a big brand, so it's like slightly different. But I really like that idea of like finding people with a similar sort of level to you, because they're probably interested in growing their following as well, and much more likely to see it, as you said, and also collaborate. That's really, really cool, and especially in these kind of lockdown times as well. Like, you know, I saw the word networking in chat. It's like, it's like a good kind of networking way to collaborate, and it's also like to give yourself a bit of a project, a bit of a brief.
Exactly. And social media people and people who manage brands and are looking for new creative talent, they have their finger on the pulse. Like, I was thinking about how I was following a jeweler when she maybe had about 2,000 followers, and now she has tens of thousands, and she's always on US Vogue and stuff. So your work can, you know, if you're kind of doing something that's fitting into the zeitgeist, is that what zeitgeist means? Before you know it, you can have a lot of eyes on what you're doing. So just sort of keep at it.
Nice. I like that. Cool. Thanks for coming back to that. And
I know I wasn't happy with my answer. I know I shouldn't be so critical. My therapist would tell me to relax, but here we are.
We'll have to get your therapist on next time.
She'd be like, "Whoa, Greta, what are you making me do here?"
There was just a quick question, sorry, from chat. I'm just going to answer. Yeah, just Frank. Is Greta doing an Instagram story animation? Yes. So this is aimed at an Instagram story animation, correct? Which is
a common asset to get. And the other thing that happens all the time is clients send you extreme landscape photos, and they say, "Hey, how can we put this into this tall, narrow image, and you sort of have to explain and negotiate and make it work. Because it's tricky. Not a lot of photographers, it's happening more and more now that people, well, I shouldn't say not a lot, but now people are shooting with this format in mind, which is great.
I know. I remember when it was a faux pas to shoot, like vertically. But I remember a couple of years ago, actually at Adobe Max, we were in a little workshop with the Adobe stock people, and they were talking about the biggest gap that they have is photographers not submitting vertical or profile based things for social media, and then they really, really need it. But so many photographers at the particular time were shooting everything in landscape, of course, because that's the way it's always been. But like, there's this huge gap. We need photographers to shoot in vertical so people can use it for social media.
And if you're lucky enough to be at the start of a job where they're liaising with you about how they want the end result to look, which doesn't always happen, but it's really nice when it does, you can say to them, hey, if you're taking photos of models, can we get a head to toe shot of the model? And show them this shape, like be visual. Because sometimes it's hard to imagine, taking a landscape picture and making it essentially the opposite. Okay. So this is video texture. I'll show you what this originally, I can show you what it originally looked like in here. Normal. So this is the mode section. I've got this little textured file, which I paid for. PQ Grit Kit 2. Someone has kindly gone out and filmed all of these different grits or textures.
Right.
I haven't got it linked to all of them. I've just got a few of them here. Ketchup. Mustard. So I chose sort of liquidy ones because we're dealing with orange juice. I love these because it adds an element of interest without being too sort of over the top. I've rotated this one, so it used to be, if you go into it, I've got them all. So that's the original file there. How long is it? It's 2 seconds long. So I've just duplicated it out. There are expressions to do this. I tend to just do it manually. I've duplicated it out. I've rotated it so that it's no longer landscape. Instead, it's now vertical to fit my vertical. So this is a pre-composition. A pre-comp is when you make another comp, you put a whole lot of stuff in it. For this instance, it's the mustard video. And then I take that pre-comp and I drop it in here and I go over to mode and I set it to lighten, and you can experiment with these. That's color dodge. Which one did I just bump? Color, difference, and they all have a slightly different look, but I went with lighten. So we're pretending we have a client, it keeps most of their blue color that they've had, umpteen people approve.
Right.
I'm not the sort of person who's like, I'm going to change everything. That's not how it works. You want to work with that. So we've added this texture. And with any video, I'm a big believer that you always want something moving. Because if you're just going animation, pause, animation, pause, animation, pause, the viewer is like, oh, it stopped, we're done. Oh, no, we're back. Oh, no, it stopped. Oh, no, we're back. So you kind of want to always let them know, hey, this is going to keep going.
Something's happening. Yeah, that's
Texture
interesting.
does that. Yeah, I'm a big believer in it. And then on top of that, because I'm just layering things up to really sort of show kind of how full you can make these videos, I've got this video that I found on a stock website. It doesn't really look like orange juice, but it doesn't not look like orange juice. So I took that, I dropped it in. Let's get rid of its track matte. I was going to say trick matte. That's it there. I've probably turned it on its side. I have 90 degrees. Now, a track matte is something I recommend if you've never used them before, just really experimenting with, maybe watching some YouTube videos. It's essentially a mask.
Right.
So what I'm doing with this file is our track matte is a black shape. It can be any color because you're not going to see it. I tend to make them a color that's different from the colors that are existing in the video.
Right.
So I'm not going to make it this blue color.
It's just something that you want to really be able to know straight away what it is.
I need to know that because if you start bumping things and clicking things and working fast and you have to come back to the video 6 months later, I want to know that I didn't at any point have this like box doing something cool within the animation.
Right.
And I always label them track matte to make it really clear. So here's what happens when you use a track matte. Right now we've got the full video with a black shape on top. What I want the orange juice video to do is only be visible on the outside of the shape. So you go in here, and I think it's alpha inverted matte. Yeah, there we go. And it reveals the textured video underneath.
Cool.
Now, I know everyone says there's 700 different ways you can do this in After Effects. This is how I chose to do it today. So if I do the other one, alpha matte, track matte, it's going to pick the inside.
Right. Cool.
And you are a genius if you can remember which is which. Without fail, you'll click. It's like putting a USB into the back of a computer.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, if you know how to do it the first time, you're an amazing person. Yeah. Okay, so we've got all of these elements working together. We've got the video of orange juice. We've got the texture. We've got the blue background. I've got a shape repeater, and I'm really going to quickly show you how I made a shape repeater, which is this section here. But there's an even better tutorial online, which I have to watch every time I try to do this. I'm like, wait, what? How do I do this again? Over here. This video this is it. This is where it's at. This is such a cool effect. It's pretty simple, and it can just really add a bit of depth and interest to your video.
This is great. I love that you've kept it in the family here. So that was Evan Abrams has created this tutorial, which is great, who streams on here on Behance quite a bit. That's awesome. I have
this bookmarked. Like I am regularly in this watching that tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to do it quite quickly because I want to move on to something else. But you basically go new shape. You create your shape. In this instance, let's make it a circle. And I'm going to do the solo. Come on, Greta, think it through. Let's make it a color. If you double click the anchor, it'll go straight, it'll auto set to the center. And then I'll also align it to the center because I like things to be centered. So within the circle, you have all of these properties, stroke, fill, lots of things. So we can play with the size, the position, and these are some of the things I want to play with today. Doing setting a keyframe for the position, I'm jumping over 20 frames. Let's move the position up. Let's change the size. This is all going to make sense in a second. Let's change the size of the circle so it can start smaller, and then let's get it a bit bigger. Let's start adding in our ease and whiz. So at the moment we've got this, which is like not offensive, but we want to make it feel, I mean, you'd hope it wouldn't be offensive. You want to make it feel just a little bit more special. So we're going to add a group. You put the group on top, you drop your circle in, and then we're going to add a repeater. So it auto repeats 3 times. Ooh, pardon me. It auto repeats 3 times. We're going to set it to 16. I want 16 circles, and they're all just going off that way. Whoosh.
Right.
And again, this talks it all through a little bit slower than what I'm doing today. And then we go into our transform for the repeater as opposed to the overall transform for the shape. We set the position to 0. Let's hope this works, because I did this morning. It did not work. Again,
it's the curse of doing things live. It can work in practice 100 times and then it won't work live. So
I think if I start dragging this rotation, we'll see a circle.
Oh,
yay!
Awesome.
So this is where maths comes in. I've got 16 of these circles and I want them evenly spaced over 360 degrees.
Right.
So I click on here and I go 360 divided by 16. And I press enter and it says, sure, Greta.
You can just do the maths inside After Effects.
I think we talked about this briefly on Tuesday, but when I first learned about this, I was like, yes, this makes sense.
Cool.
It's a really nice little trick. And now we have this.
Hey, nice.
So there are so many properties you can change, and I'm just going to do a quick version. Let's just do scale and position. Let's actually scale it down. No, let's scale it up. And then, no, that's not the position I want to do. Let's add some rotation. So it spins. You can even rotate the individual shapes, which won't really show up because these are circles. So
Right.
when a solid circle is rotating, you can't see that. It needs to be a square or something needs to be happening in the circle. But the other thing I'll do is I'm going to hit U so I can see that I want it to exit frame. I'm going to pull that position out. So then you get something that looks like this.
Cool.
These are awesome for adding energy and movement and excitement into a file. So here's one that I built earlier, which isn't perfect, but it's just something else happening.
That's really cool.
So we're going to use a similar. I'm just going to jump in here really quickly. What you can see happening here is that I've got the original image, embedded image as a guide layer. And earlier on this pink slice, I went like this. I went layer styles, drop shadow. And within the layer styles, I added a drop shadow to this slice right here to match what we see in the photo.
Oh, cool.
Because again, if this is from a client, the first thing they're going to say is, oh, where are our drop shadows?
Right.
The approved image has drop shadows. So it's like, I got you. Sometimes it's like, I don't know. But in this instance, like, cool, I can add in drop shadows. So they're at 15% opacity.
It's the trick with drop shadows is they need to be kind of barely noticeable almost all the time.
Yeah, otherwise
right?
they become a bit too much of a good thing. The size is 64, the distance is 122 pixels, and I just played around with this until it looked like it was matching. But the nice thing is I can select layer styles, copy it, Command-C, and just pop it into all my other orange slices.
Oh, nice. And if you watch the Tuesday session, we talked about that quite a bit, like actually cutting out the orange slices by themselves and not including the drop shadow. So it's great to see that you can add them in After Effects by yourself and have full control.
Yeah, exactly. It's about full control. The reason why you want to add them in here is because if you try to do feathered clipping paths in Photoshop with the drop shadows, unless you're really patient, it's going to look a little bit crunchy. So you might as well get rid of those drop shadows in Photoshop, have the crisp orange slice and bring the drop shadow in within this app.
Nice.
And we just need to add it to our bottle. And now my computer's going to be like, oh, why did you add in all these extra things for me to think about, Greta? No, it's not too bad. And there they all are. Almost looks like a swimming pool. Okay, so let's start to transition out of this. So the first message is this. It's like, hey, look at our product. That scaling, by the way, is done in here. It's really simple. Scale starts at 85, and then I don't actually even need those points there. And then the keyframe, if you're watching over here in this red section, it scales down to 44. And the bottle moves up just a touch, so it still feels centered. You can see the center by going proportional grid. And then I just did that with my eyes. I centered it. You can get more technical with shapes and stuff, but I'm pretty good. Like I can tell you if all your pictures are hanging in a skew. If
it's
wake on.
It's a double-edged sword, that having that eye, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like that's balanced, I think. And if we jump into this bottle and slices pre-comp, I've timed it all so that as it's scaling out and we reveal more of the bottle, the oranges are moving as well. Sorry, it's not showing you the preview because I've got it set to full. So as it scales out, this happens as well. So it all sort of makes sense. And as we discussed before, something's always moving. The orange juice in the back is moving, the texture is moving. So it just sort of goes whoosh, and it all feels pretty cool. And now I'm going to power through the next bit.
Nice. And I will let you know, I think I promised to let you know when we've got about 15 minutes left. So here we are.
Oh yeah, I need to show you how to make it loop too. All right, I'm going to use a circle as a transition. And let's transition to an orange color. So I'm using the eyedrop tool. And I'm just going to draw a circle on, double click the anchor point to bring it into the center, and then center it. And I've already set the start of this for 3 seconds in. And let's start the scale at 0. It's really simple, maybe over 20 frames, keyframes. I'm going to scale it up so that it completely takes over the whole image and it gives us essentially a new part of the animation. This is really simple. You'll see this all the time. I'm going to do it as Expo. If I hit spacebar, oh my gosh, is that too fast? Oh, I know, I scaled both. That happens all the time. You have both keyframes highlighted. So now it's going 0. Boom, new scene.
Cool.
So if you're feeling special, you can have quite a few of these going. So it's like,
if you're feeling special.
yeah, if you want to do it within reason though, always stop, rewatch, think about the client. Is this client soft and floral and gentle and it's a product for babies, or are you promoting a rave that's happening in...
Yeah.
I say that, it sounds like I've never been out dancing when I say the word rave. I have. Not raves though, can you imagine? I'm not that cool. Yeah, so you can just think about the client when you're doing these sort of things. Hectic, gentle, romantic, fun, youthful, older, whatever it is, create your transition, anything that you do, all of that ties in to the final product.
Yeah.
What we're going to do here is we're going to really quickly create a new composition, and we're going to make it a traditional 16:9 format. And we're going to call it Orange Slice. I won't call it Slice because Slice is something you can do in Photoshop. Let's not confuse ourselves. Okay, and that's it. It's got a transparent background, which After Effects has set to black for me. I think you can change the color. I like to keep it like this. I'm going to go into our bottles and slices, and I'm going to find one of these half slices. I've hit copy, I'll hit paste. There it is. I'm hitting U. I don't want any of these keyframes that I put on it before. I just want the image. Why can't I see it? I know, because it was probably parented to something. So let's hit align. Hey, there it is. Days.
So it was off the composition then? Is that why we couldn't see it?
Yeah, because back in here, it's no, it's not parented. It's just sometimes when you copy and paste things. Let's see where it is.
That's all the way down there. Okay.
It happens all the time.
Right.
You'll be like, what have I done? Just zoom out. I use greater than or lesser than to zoom out. I'm endlessly centering things. It's my favorite thing to do. I wish every program in the world had that function. Mm-hmm. And let's just apply a bit of a rotation to this. Let's actually call this Orange Slice 1. If you rename it up here, it'll rename down here. If you rename in here, it won't speak back up here. That didn't make sense. Basically, the project is like the motherboard.
Right.
That is, if you're going to rename something, oh my gosh, if you're going to rename something, hack into the mainframe. If you're going to rename something, do it in the project, do it in the motherboard, and then it'll talk to every other corresponding file.
Right.
So I'm going to give this a background color, Command Y. I'm going to pick roughly the blue that our client was using, the cyan, drop it underneath. So what have we got here? Let's give this a little bit of love with ease and whiz. That is way too slow. So I'm adjusting the keyframe here.
To speed it up?
Yeah. And as we were talking about before, I actually want it to start off stage. I love that. It's masterpiece. Okay, let's take our orange slice 1, drop it into our new section as introduced by our very simple circle transition. I'm going to scale this down. I reckon 70. And I'm going to lock this one to the top. I'm going to duplicate and make a second orange slice. I'm going to give this a different colored background, which you can do with the fill over in effects and presets. Drop it on top. It always is set to this passionate red. Let's just give it another slightly different blue. What are the odds of hitting the same one? Then back into our project, duplicating again, Command D, orange slice 3. And let's change the color again. Now this has the fill on it already. Oh, what a nice colored blue. Okay.
That's nice.
Yeah. And I'm going to drop these other 2 in, and this is a cute little trick. Orange slice 2, orange slice 3. What scale do we have that at? 70, so I can copy that. I'm going to center orange slice 2, and I'm going to put orange slice 3 at the bottom. I'm going to bring all of their scales down a bit. Sounds like I'm talking about fish. Orange slice 1 back up to the top. Orange slice 3 to the bottom. Ooh, they just need a little bit more. 61. Orange slice 3, lock it back to the bottom. Lock that to the top. Now we have this kind of, we're using the portrait space in a fun, interesting way, in my opinion. We're saying, hey, it's not just filling the whole image, we're breaking it up. And this is really handy to do if a client gives you a landscape video and they say, we love this video, can you make it for the Instagram stories? There will be parts of the video that work beautifully as the full vertical. For example, if the video was about my earrings, these earrings would work nicely in a full vertical. But if they also needed, say, a shot of just my mouth talking, it would look cool to have 3 mouths.
Right.
So
That's interesting.
Sort of what we're doing here. Yeah, so you can play with the format. And I'm just going to have these. So we have our circle transition, and just really quickly, and then I'm going to loop this whole video for you. I'm just going to have them drop in, one after the other, and also starting. There are ways to refine this. Obviously, we're working sort of fast. They're all starting at different 5 frames apart, and it looks like this. This isn't going to be perfect, but you'll get a feel for the... See how they're all moving? It's slightly different parts of the video. It just looks nice.
That's cool. Yeah, I think the staggering thing is like a really big takeaway. Like staggering things a little bit, slightly different times, slightly different speeds, adds like a lot of flavor to it.
Yeah, not everything needs to match. All right, let's make this loop. In Instagram stories, you don't need it to loop because it'll just go on to the next story or the next story. But in the feed, videos autoplay. So if you're making a video that's 5 seconds long, there's a really good chance that the person viewing it will get to the end of it. And so you can keep them watching if you keep in a loop. Not that we're trying to manipulate people, but it's just like this nice little bit of, it makes it feel really special. So here's how we do it. The trick with looping is you need the video to end where it starts.
Okay.
So we need the last frame to pretty much be what we can see here. So I am going to take this whole front section, which we don't need that. Our slightly dodgy shape repeater I can delete. I'm going to highlight all of these layers, and I'm going to Am I going to pre-compose them? No, let's copy and paste. CV. Drag them up. Let's make them. So that'll happen. When do these start to slow down? About there. Boom. And now I'm going to bring all of these assets back in, but I'm going to remove a lot of their animation so that they don't just start animating again. Let's see. Now, normally I would do this with a lot of slowness, patience, and thought. So this isn't going to be perfect.
Yeah, I'll mention we've got about 4 minutes left as well.
Here we go. All right. Let's do that one just with opacity, which this video to me shouldn't really have fading in, fading out. It doesn't really suit the brand, but we're going to do it. 0. It's crisp. It feels crisper than that. This video texture doesn't really matter. You could sort of pop it at a random point so it doesn't feel too repetitive. Now this video, I'm hitting Command D to duplicate it. If I go like this, that is going to be, it's a bit hard to explain, but basically that's the start of the video and that's the bit that we see.
Right,
when we're back
okay.
at the start of the file. So I actually want to use that much of the video so it syncs up. And then let's keep that like that. It's going to be perfect, but you'll get the feel for it.
I think everyone's going to go out and get an orange juice after this.
I know. Look, they do. I have a bit of sugar in them, and if my friends are watching, they'll be like, "Oh my God, Greta, don't lecture these poor people on sugar." Let's just keep that there, and maybe just I'm going to parent that to the bottle. Oh, it's already parented. Let's give this a position point. I'll just show you this really quickly. It's not perfect, but you'll get a feel for what I'm trying to do. Basically bringing everything in as if it's the start of the video again. I know. Give me 1 second. I've got this. Reveal layer source in project. I'm holding Alt because I want this to be the bottle only and I don't want any of these orange slices to happen.
Right.
So I'm actually editing a different comp that's essentially the same. All right, this is brave, but let's just jump right in. See what we've got. Cute, happy. This will be a bit weird, but it's sort of coming back to the start of the file. It's not perfect. The word orange was already on, but you kind of get the feel for how you get things to loop. You've got to reintroduce whatever it was you had at the start.
That's cool. We're going to have to call it there, unfortunately. But yeah, I totally see what you mean. So you got to think about where it's ending. But I love that it doesn't just fade in and fade out. You're adding the animation in, so it's kind of crushing down.
Exactly. So
that
you can
is very cool.
A circle to get the blue color back. There's lots of fun things that you can do to make it feel special to the person who's looking at it.
That is awesome. We are going to cut it there because otherwise we are going to get cut off. But thank you everyone for joining and hanging out with us. And Greta, thank you so much. There was so much in that video and also tons on Tuesday. I think it's a watch a couple of times and pause where you're going through some of those parts because there's so many interesting takeaways and really cool little tips and tricks in there. And it's just a blast hanging out with you on Adobe Live. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I talked a bit of nonsense, so there's definitely some fast forwarding to be done as well. But no, I hope there was some stuff there for, people to take away.
Definitely. No, there definitely was. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back next week with more Adobe Live, and we hope you're staying safe and looking after each other, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Greta.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.